Trev's Hockey Show. I'm the Trev. It's too sweet. Anyway, it's the most wonderful time of the year. And it begins Saturday. And I figured now's as good a time as any, since we're pushing that close to it. Better give you guys my Stanley Cup predictions. Now, I'm hoping that I actually get this one right. Not just in terms of who wins, but in games played. Because I have a strong hunch it might go the way I'm thinking. But let's talk about it. Now, I don't have to tell you what it's all about from this point on. This is what we play for, right? Right. And this year feels like a treat because we get two teams from the South. You have Vegas, who's in the Southwest, versus Florida, who's in the Southeast. This is the first final to feature two teams from the South. Or if you want to use non-traditional hockey markets, that way you're not bugging anybody. I get it. Either way, you can't escape the facts, right? But that's one thing to take into consideration too. And what makes this one even more special in my mind, somebody is winning their first Stanley Cup. And it's always a treat when a team wins their first. So let's break it down. Let's talk about how we got here. So starting with Vegas. In your Western Conference semifinal, Vegas took Winnipeg out in 5 games, which included a double overtime in Game 3. Now, very physical series. I'm surprised nobody died. For the Western Conference semifinals, the Golden Knights took out the heavily favored Oilers, and I can't stress heavily enough. Took out the Oilers in 6, and that was a goals fest in terms of productivity, not just for Vegas, but for the Oilers as well. It was a very, very, very goal-filled series. And then for your Western Conference Finals, the Golden Knights almost blew a tire and almost gave the series up to the Stars before finally deciding to take them out in 6 games. The beauty of this series was 3 games went into overtime. Game 1, Game 2, and Game 4. Not single overtimes, but overtimes nonetheless. So they played a lot of overtime hockey to this point. But there's your Western Conference champs. Let's move on to the East. The Florida Panthers have been making a beautiful go out of being the number 8 seed. Not only did they manage to survive, but also thrive against the reigning and defending President's Trophy champs and the regular season record breaker Boston Bruins in a full 7-game marathon. And it was a marathon. I mean, there was an overtime in Game 5 in which the statement was laid down by Matthew Tkachuk, of all people, that there would be a Game 7, and there was a Game 7. And wouldn't you know it, his fingerprints were all over that Game 7 overtime winner. Go figure, right? So in the Eastern Conference semifinals, after taking out the best team in the league, they took out the second best team in the Atlantic, taking Toronto out in 5 games, which included a Game 3 and a Game 5 overtime. Now, the winner in Game 5 was not scored by Matthew Tkachuk, but that's not to say that he was quiet that whole series. I mean, he was doing Matthew Tkachuk things. Go figure, right? And then after taking out the second best team in the Atlantic, they took out the second best team in the East, managing to dispose of the Hurricanes in 4 straight. Now, I say 4 straight, but it could have easily been 5 or 6, considering Game 1 went to 4 overtimes. Game 2 went to a single overtime. Both overtime winners scored by Matthew Tkachuk. And then Game 4 being decided in the last 4 seconds by none other, you guessed it, Matthew Tkachuk. But that's how the Panthers have made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. Now for Vegas, this is their second trip to the Stanley Cup Finals in their short 6-year history. Their first appearance since 2018, which was their inaugural season. So it's almost like a continuing where they should have been left off a long time ago kind of feeling going in. 6 players left over from that initial cup run. We'll see how they play out in this one. For the Panthers, this is their second cup run in franchise history, their first since 1996, where they lost that in 4 straight to Colorado. Obviously, no players left over from that team. But, the first time in 27 years, that's nothing to sneeze at. I mean, they're competing for the cup, right? Right. So let's look down the lines. So for Vegas right now, your team leader in points is Jack Eichel with 18. And he's on fire. I don't know if there is any containing him. Marchessault's become a nice little threat in these playoffs with 17 points. And the ability to snipe at command. This guy is just under the radar most nights. Ivan Barbashev has 15 points and, like Eichel, is firing on all cylinders. Mark Stone also has 15 points and has really been the unsung hero for this team. Chandler Stevenson has 14 points and some of the prettiest goals you'll ever see in these playoffs. Just saying. William Karlsson, one of the original members of that first Cup run team, has 14 points as well and is still playing like there's probably the best hockey I've ever seen Karlsson play. I mean, he is not putting up points every game, but the points he is putting up, they're magnificent. Riley Smith has 11 points, has really been one of the more important pieces on the forward line as far as the cogs in the Vegas machine goes. Peter Angelo on defense with 9 points has managed to get under the skin of every team he's played against, so I don't see Florida being any exception, really. And in net, you got Aiden Hill, who came in relief during the Edmonton Oilers series and has managed to put together a 7-3 record, a .937 save percentage, a 2.07 goals against, and 2 shutouts in 10 playoff games. And then on the bench, you got Bruce Cassidy, who's in his first year with Vegas, making his second trip to the Stanley Cup Finals, his first since 2019 when he coached the Bruins against the St. Louis Blues. So he's looking to make this his first Stanley Cup. Now that's Vegas. Let's go to the other side. Florida Panthers are definitely nothing to sneeze at either. Obviously leading the charge for the Panthers this year is first-year Panther Matthew Tkachuk, who, as I'm recording, is second in league scoring with 21 playoff points. And really, it doesn't matter how many points he has. This guy is all over the Panthers right now. Like, every bit of their win, their run, is because of Tkachuk. And then there's Carter Verhaeghe, who's got 15 points. And he's another one of those under-the-radar guys. You never know he's there until he shows up and puts the puck behind the net. Then you're in trouble. So try and contain him too, right? And then Barkov comes in with 14 points. And what's more important about Barkov isn't so much that, he's the captain, he's putting up points, is he's still proven why he's one of the best two-way players in the league today. I hope that never changes, at least not for a long time anyway. Because watching Barkov is fun. Sam Reinhart comes in with 11 points. And it's a fun thing to see him finally develop into the player he was supposed to be when he got drafted all those years ago. Good on him. Sam Bennett also has 11 points. And much like Reinhart, I'm glad he finally found himself in Florida to become the player he's become now. I mean, big body. Oh, when he hits, it hurts. Montour leads Florida defensemen with 9 points. And him, along with Ekblad, have been a really solid reason as to why the Panthers are up to this point. Well, 1A and 1B. The other big reason, goalie Bob, when Sergei Bobrovsky. Really, his back must be sore because he's carrying these Panthers on it all the way to the final. He comes into the Stanley Cup final with a league best 11-2 record in 13 playoff games. A .935 save percentage, a 2.21 goals against average, and 1 playoff shutout. His first playoff shutout, if you can believe that. I know, I couldn't believe it either. On the bench, you got Paul Maurice, who, much like Bruce Cassidy in Vegas, is in his first year in Florida. And much like Bruce Cassidy in Vegas, is going to his second Stanley Cup final, his first since 2002. When he coached Carolina against the Detroit Red Wings. So, long time coming, I would think, for Paul Maurice. now let's get into the mix. This one is going to be physical in every sense of the word. Remember I said Vegas almost murdered Winnipeg? I could see something like that happening here, especially with explosive personalities. I mean, Kachuk notwithstanding, you got Radko Gudas in Florida, and if Peter Angelo can get under your skin for Vegas, imagine what Gudas can do. He can get in your face. It's been proven. And while Vegas does have great depth, I'll give them that. They don't have a Kachuk or a Barkov. One of those two would definitely help Vegas' cause out a lot, I think. But it's not to say that that's the be-all, end-all. In my own opinion, and this is just my opinion, you don't have to agree with me. In my opinion, it's going to come down to goaltending. And which gets the job done better, the more experienced guy or the hot rookie riding the hot ticket? Because remember, the last hot goalie we saw riding a hot ticket was some kid named Binnington. And look how well that's worked for St. Louis these days. It's okay, I'll wait. Anyway, now that we're talking, it's really going to come down to the net. And like I said, it's not going to be an easy series. It's going to be spicy, guaranteed. Given these two teams' track records, there has to be some overtimes in here. Multiple overtimes would be awesome, but any overtimes will do. Now, could it be a goals fest? Well, no reason why not. I mean, Vegas has scored 62 goals to date in these playoffs to Florida's 50, compared to Vegas having 45 goals scored against them to Florida's 43. So while Vegas could potentially make this an out-of-the-water kind of score fest, look for Florida to keep it close. So it has the potential, hard to say. But as I was saying, I don't expect this to be anywhere near easy for either team. I don't see Vegas giving Florida too many chances. I don't see Florida giving up too much leeway. I would not be surprised if this went a complete 7 games. Actually, I would love it if it went a complete 7 games. So, as for a game amount, that's my prediction. Now, as for a winner, I have to go with my gut on this one and say Florida. Not because they're number 8 seed, riding the momentum that they can ride as a number 8 seed. They've done a great job of convincing everybody that they're the underdog because they're the number 8 seed. But you don't need to convince anybody that you are, because I see right through it. You know, if you can convince teams that, hey, we're not supposed to be here, you've completely gotten into their head rent-free. So, good head game, absolutely. And while Vegas does have the depth and does have beautiful goal scorers on their team, Florida is motivated. Florida is driven. And really, this should not be any surprise. I mean, ever since that Matthew Tkachuk trade in the offseason, it's definitely turned Florida into a much different team. And Florida should be thankful for it. And the fact that it's helped make them competitive, it's just what the doctor ordered, right? But as I'm saying, Panthers in 7. And if you want to take that to Vegas, no pun intended, but you can take it if you like, go right ahead. As of this recording, in my playoff predictions, I'm 9 for 14. So I'm almost batting 1,000, believe it or not. Let's hope I can keep that string of picking the right ones going. But like I said, I'd be more impressed, for my own self anyway, if it came back that it went 7 games and Florida won it in 7. Not to brag or boast, but just to say, hey, that was pretty cool. But let me know who you think is winning the 2023 Stanley Cup. No, just hockey shows. I want to thank you for tuning in. Don't think I don't appreciate the gesture, especially if you've made it to this point. If you have, that's a great thing. I appreciate it very much. My algorithm appreciates it very much. So if you're here, if you like what I'm doing, if you just want to say hey, yeah, thumbs up. That red button down below that says subscribe all over it, come on, you know you want it. Let's do it up. Pushing 250. Maybe it'll make you feel good. That link to that social I never use is in the description down below. Let's move forward. Go pump out one more prediction video for you. But either way, in the meantime, in between time, look for videos from Trev. Later.